of a professional kind of thing. And finally, the last thing that I really equate to the big changes that have been going on in video is social media and the sharing of all of this content that everyone has. Now, social media and Web 2.0 started like 2003, 2004, but I really think just in the past few years is when everyone has really started saying, okay, this isn't going away. This is here to stay. Everyone now has their own Facebook fan page, or every organization, mostly, has their own Facebook fan page. A lot of people have their own YouTube channels and Twitter accounts and so forth. So it's just, there's all of this way of sharing content and sharing information. And of course, video is one of those venues, one of those avenues to take in sharing content. Because of all these changes, many organizations have started in the past couple years really to start producing their own content, especially with the rise of the flip camera and the HD flip camera. And, you know, for under $200, organizations can purchase these cameras, people can stick them in their back pocket and take them to wherever they go and document footage. Computers now, you know, even if it's just a basic software that comes with your computer, has a real basic editing software. So people aren't as intimidated as they've been in years past with kind of getting their hands dirty in video. So organizations are producing more of their own video. As a result of more and more video online and more content online, videos are a lot shorter. Back in the 90s and up until, I don't know, just somewhat recently, most videos that organizations produce were around 7 to 10 minutes long. But today, anything over 3 minutes is pushing it. I mean, there's still plenty of content that's like, 4 to 7 minutes long that you'll find. But I think when people see like a running time of 7 minutes on YouTube or whatever, they're kind of like, I don't know if I can commit to that, which sounds crazy, but it's true. And I've even seen organizations that are producing videos now that are like 60, 90 seconds long. So videos are definitely becoming shorter than they ever have in the past. And finally, organizations are producing more videos than in years past. In the past, what comes to mind is an organization would produce a video every 5 to 7 years. There's a change in staff or board members change, and they have to update their video, and that would usually happen every 5 to 7 years. They would have one video. Now, a lot of organizations are producing up to 5 to 7 videos in 1 year. So the dynamics have shifted. So with all the changes, there are still a lot of things that have stayed the same with video. One being, it is a great supplement to other content. Just like back in the day, organizations would produce their 7 to 10 minute video, they'd have it on CD-ROM or they have it on VHS tapes, and it would supplement their folder full of information. And that still stands true today, but most of the time it's online. So today, a video that's online is supplemented with a PDF, it's supplemented with blogs, it's supplemented with photos. So it's still surrounded by all of these different varieties of content. That has not changed. Video is also just one part of a marketing plan. That has not changed. When organizations go and work on their marketing strategies for the year and review the objectives and the goals that they have, there's a long list of ways to achieve those objectives. Video isn't the be-all, end-all solution. It's one part of the solution, and that is still the same today. Video still allows you to tell a story and connect with people on a personal and emotional level. I don't think that's ever going to change. When you hear someone's voice and the sincerity in their voice and the sincerity in their eyes, that's powerful stuff. And finally, which this kind of connects back to the first point about video being a great supplement to other content, is that video is good for visual and auditory learners. So the more variety of content that you have out there about your organization, the better for the people that retain information more easily through reading, people that like to watch videos and get more information through hearing or seeing. So the more variety of content you have out there, the better. And those are some ways that video has stayed the same.
All right. Let's see if I can not blast this thing away. So I'm not going to like read a bunch of stats, but there's a couple things up here that are important, and I think this change that's happened in the last couple of years of YouTube being the second largest search engine after Google, that's unbelievably important to me, and I think it should be to all of us. Because what that's saying is it's not just informing us about, oh, we have to have video, but what it means, it's telling us what our audience is doing. People are looking for information. People are looking for answers. People are looking for sometimes for stories, but people are actively seeking out videos constantly. I mean, that just blows my mind still, that because it doesn't make sense to me. Like if I want to know where a restaurant is, I don't go to YouTube, but I guess someone is. So somehow YouTube is second to Google. Couple other things that are going on is, I don't know how many people in this room don't have a smartphone yet. Eventually, you probably won't have a choice. And the fact is, I don't know about you, I've been at restaurants where people are like, have you seen this video on YouTube? And they don't say, I'll email you the link or I'll show you later when we get home. They hand me their phone. And I'm watching the video right then. And that's pretty awesome. So not only is broadband keeping up enough that we can finally watch HD video without it choking constantly, we can watch it in a bar, which is nice because I like to be in bars. I also like to be at home on my couch, and I have this cool little thing called a Roku box, which, if anyone has a Wii, there's all these devices now where you can stream tons of video straight to your television in your living room. So, a lot of people know about this for doing Netflix. That's why I got the little thing. But then I found out, hey, look, I can watch Vimeo, which is similar to YouTube. I can watch Vimeo on my television. And the saddest thing that I can say is that I've actually done a bit of that. I've watched some videos that other people produced, put on Vimeo, and sat on my couch watching them. Pretty weird. But what that means is these YouTube channels, and YouTube is also out there a lot too. Roku just lets me do Vimeo. These channels that you're creating, you now have your own TV channel. There's all this talk about IPTV and IPTV stations. You have an IPTV station all the time, and you can fill it with exactly as little or as much content as you want or can. And then I just think this is interesting. A year ago, they're reporting that 85% of internet users are watching online video. I think we know how many people are internet users. I think we can take a guess that means that most of the people that we're trying to reach who are connected, who are going to be gaining messages that we're advocating for, that want to hear about the organizations that we're working for, they're going to see online video messages. So what's next? That's still me. Social media today, is that right?
Yeah.
All right. Social media today, if you guys aren't familiar with it, I can't remember the name of it for some reason. Check it out. It's a really good online blog newspaper to follow. And every year they do a social media marketing report. And in my work with nonprofits over the years, I've found that a lot of times that nonprofits tend to be a couple years behind in technology. And so looking at what business people are doing, I think is really important in terms of where it is that as organizations we need to be getting to. And the fact is that we can't afford that delay to be quite as long anymore because of the pace of technology. So I wanted to make you guys aware of what some marketers are doing for traditional businesses. So 90% of marketers saying social media is important for their business, and 77% of the same people saying that they're going to use YouTube and online video as part of their marketing in 2011. This is really important. This means that tons of money is moving from television and other broadcast mediums and straight into YouTube and other channels like that. So for us, that means, maybe we want to pay attention. And the other thing in terms of what we're talking about is that doesn't mean we have to pay attention by investing all of our marketing budgets that we probably may not have, but it means that we need to think about our marketing to include, at least in budgeting our time, to make sure that we're going to be making videos to communicate with our audience. Infrared. There you go. So now we've overwhelmed you with how important it is to be making video. So that's kind of scary. And I know that some of this stuff has been basic because we do have a very diverse audience. If anyone has a question or an experience or anything like that, please let me know. Definitely, like Seth was saying, want to keep with the interactive nature of these presentations. But I think it's really important to go back to that marketing plan or that strategic plan and use those as your touchstones when you're going to create media. We'll talk a lot about how, I think you guys probably have some sense of how much time it takes. So even if you're not investing tons of money, you're going to invest tons of time. You want to make sure that those messages hit those goals. So think about the demographics you would be thinking about in any marketing plan, and think about how those apply to what your goal is, who these people are, and then really in terms of tailoring the message, I think in the next slide, Debbie's going to talk a little bit about different kinds of content, but if you're not sure of what that messaging is in any of your communications, any of your social media, not just video, but when you're writing your blogs and making your Facebook and Twitter posts, you're going to have some issues in terms of missing the mark. So it's really important place to make sure you take a few minutes and ponder what those messaging objectives are.
Okay. So say you're ready to produce a video, you've gone through, you reviewed your objectives, what you want to accomplish, what your messaging is. Now you have to figure out your approach. What approach are you going to take with your video? And content is king. I mean, like Michael was saying, it's really important to provide value, whatever you choose to produce, just like anything that you post online for your social media network should provide value for your target audience. It should be insightful, it should be entertaining, they should learn something, it should give them something. So in terms of video, for this purpose, we've broken down video content into two categories, storytelling and informational. Storytelling works really well for fundraising, advocacy, and brand awareness, and informational works well to promote events, programs, and organizations in general. Now, this is not written in stone, obviously. There's room to wiggle here. If you end up making a video for fundraising that actually is more informational and has more facts, that doesn't mean that it won't be effective. But from our experience, we really think storytelling is a great approach to take when it comes to fundraising. So, in terms of content, say you decide to go the storytelling route. Why storytelling? Storytelling really increases audience engagement. We all love to hear people's stories. We all love learning about other people. It's really important for organizations to keep that in mind when they choose a protagonist. And for over 40,000 years, we've actually been telling stories, whether it's through cave art, whether it's through oral storytelling, later written, and then, of course, through film and television, and now the internet. Storytelling has always been powerful. So if an organization chooses to go the storytelling route, it's really important, we think, to really think about your protagonist. Think about who you're going to pick to kind of tell the story. You want that person to be open and candid and be able to expose their vulnerability on camera, because that way, you'll be that much closer to achieving the message that you're trying to achieve in the first place, because people really respond and connect to stories where people show their vulnerability and expose themselves. So if you're going to find someone from your or that has received assistance from your organization in some way, really try to think in those terms and pick someone that you think can really open themselves up on camera. And something that I noticed, just doing my research, doing my thing, I came across a study, and basically the study has shown that donors respond more to videos about people that are only about one specific person. So a video story that's just about one person, opposed to a video story that's about two or more people. And I was thinking about it, and I think that it may very well be because a lot of times if there's too much information that's being thrown to us, or a lot of times when you watch a movie and there's all these characters being introduced at once, you might get confused, distracted, you might lose interest. So perhaps this is a reason why this study has shown that donors really do respond well to a story. They get to just immerse themselves in one person telling their story. And it's not to say that videos about multiple people being intercut, that they're not successful. We've done both approaches, and they've both worked fine. But it's just good to keep in mind specifically if your purpose is really just for fundraising. It's just something to remember and keep in mind. Yes? Well, one recipient of who's been a recipient of the services of the organization. So, like a client who has received services and shares them on through a story. That could actually be supplemented. It could be the person telling the story on their own. It could also be supplemented by their family or their friends or their coworkers that support that story. But the protagonist is the client themselves.
It's not like Debbie was saying, it's not a hard and fast rule.
Right.
Like you see the Save a Child videos on late night, and it's like it goes, this child needs to be saved, and they talk about that one child for a few minutes, and then they move on to, a kid in Malaysia.
Yeah.
A kid
The
in
first
Canada.
person is really...
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you're also talking about like one of those late night 30-minute things.
Yeah.
30 minutes on one person is not going to work, but within that 30 minutes, you are looking at a lot of individual stories.
Right.
One of the things I
And
don't want
first person. You want to make sure that, as far as storytelling, it's not someone saying, this child has been starving. You want to get, if the child is old enough to tell their own story, you want to interview the child and you want to get their experience and their story, explaining. And then you, again, like I said, if you have the budget and the time and all that, you could get the supporting characters. The child's mother, the child's brother or sister, talking about how the service has helped them to help round out the story. But like I said, the story itself is still about that one child, the protagonist. Yes?
I mean, and I want to let Debbie get back to this, and we'll look at a video in a second, actually, that's a really good example of a single-person story. But there's a part of the thing, I think, in terms of what this, what this study's about, and what, sorry, I'm trying to read the note. Debbie will read. Part of the thing that this study is about, I think, is when I'm thinking about social media video, I'm thinking about these really short run times. I'm thinking about 3 minutes and under. 90 seconds is becoming a really nice sweet spot. In 90 seconds, it's going to be the temptation a lot of times for an organization is they want to, let's say I'm a human service organization and I've got 20 programs. How do I define my human service organization? I want to tell 20 stories of people in 20 programs. And actually, that video, I still make that video. That's an important video. But guess what? That's that longer video that you might use as a leave behind. You might put it on your website, that central static website, as a place for people to go and understand the umbrella. But in terms of when you're going to put these things out in social media and try to get them to get into the wild and get spread a little bit more, like taking the content from that longer piece of video, but now you're cutting like one person's story, and Debbie's absolutely right. Maybe there's, back to human services, maybe there's a social worker that works with the client, maybe there's the child of the client who's benefited, people that have interacted, but it's that single story in that short period of time where you can see, I don't want to take Debbie's slide, but Debbie's going to talk about this. Go for it.
So, the last point basically was, in terms of storytelling, you pick a client that can really open up and tell their story in an authentic way and share their experience. And basically, you can cover the whole arc of the experience. You can discuss, you can touch on the client needs, basically, the problem that the organization is trying to solve. So there you get to educate the public, the viewers, on the problem itself and the problem trying to solve. So you can touch on that. And then you touch on the success of the client. So after they've expressed and explained their problem, then they can touch on the organization programs that have resulted in their own success. So you get to explain the framework, you get to provide a lot of content about the organization, but through a story that will keep the viewer engaged. So, yeah, it is. It really is. And lastly, you can also think about documenting the gratitude. So you've talked about the successes, and now they've achieved X, Y, and Z from the program. But in terms of a fundraising video, you get the client to say thank you, and then thank you to the organization, thank you for the donors for donating your money, and then you show that.
Or your time.
Exactly, or your time. And then basically, you show that to donors who've already given money as well as people that you hope, or just for them to give money again. And I think that that's powerful, hearing it right from the person directly. So those are things to keep in mind with storytelling. Oh, the note is that PowerPoint presentation will be available afterwards. That's true, and yes, it is true. And explain the purpose of the handout.
So everyone got a handout. We'll kind of touch on it briefly in a little bit. We're covering a lot of ground from the kind of stories that you can tell and all the way through some of the technical stuff. So in a little bit, we'll get to a section on distribution, and I'm probably going to rifle through some of the things in this handout incredibly fast. There's one site, which is, we'll give at the end, where you can go, which is Debbie's blog about video for social media, where all these resources essentially are available straight through links, so you don't have to retype all these horribly long things. But we wanted you to have something to reference. And there's one article from Real SEO, which is a really, really good blog to follow if you're going to be doing this a lot. It covers so many bases in one short thing. We could have tried to rewrite it, but why do that when I can link to it? So there it is. So now we're going to actually start to watch some videos in a moment, but before you switch over, so to kind of continue on the theme of what Debbie's talking about, so now we're on the storytelling arc, and we're talking about the different kinds of videos. So we're going to look at a fundraising, and I also like to think of it as friend raising, because a lot of our work, we don't just need donors, we need bodies, we need help, we need arms and minds and hours. So both of those things to me, though, kind of end up being from similar types of stories. So I want to start with this video from an organization. We've chosen videos today, by the way. I think there might be one. But we tried to find videos that we had nothing to do with producing. And that was intentional, because we could show you a bunch of stuff that's all in our style, and who cares? It's going to look not all the same, but it's going to at least be in this similar producing. We wanted to reach out further, and we wanted to find other examples of what everyone's doing. So this is from an organization called World Vision, so we can switch over. And before I play this one, this video runs 3 minutes and 12 seconds. One thing that's interesting about it is I want to pay attention a little bit to the quality of it, which I'll talk about in a second. This is a really good example of single-person story.
Nilikuwa naomba Mungu na pia nilikuwa nimefunga kwa ajili nipate maendeleo. Yaani sikujali ningepata maendeleo vipi, lakini mimi nilikuwa naomba kwa ajili ya maendeleo. Yaani niweze kuwa na maisha mazuri. Maana sasa uwezo wa kupata hata hiyo hela hatuna, tunapata kwa shida. Maana sasa kama kipindi cha ukame, unajua hata ukiotesha vitu havitoki. Maisha yalikuwa magumu kweli. Pia unakata tamaa ya maisha. Yaani kama huyu mtoto wangu wa kwanza, yaani zamani huko, kama yaani wakifanya mtihani, sengine anaweza kuwa kwenye 15 ama 20 hivi. Yaani alikuwa anarudi nyuma. Lakini tangu wameanza kuwa wanaenda vizuri, anakula asubuhi, anaondoka na kunywa chai. Anaenda na mawazo ya shuleni, hana shida. Sasa anaona kwenye 5, 6 ndio yani hakuwa yani ndio alikuwa anapata max hizi. Huyu mwingine wa pili ambaye amemalizia mwaka huu, yeye ni namba 2, 3. Inakaa hapo kwa muda, baadaye tunaipeleka huko shambani kwa ajili ya bustani. Na pia mtaenda kuona mazao ile imezaa. Ya pili ni maziwa. Nilivyotoa mara 2 ikazaliwa ingine ya kike. Nikaipeleka sasa kanisani, maana ndio ilikuwa yangu. Kwanza nikamshukuru Mungu. Kwa kweli namshukuru Mungu kwa sababu sasa mimi hii ng'ombe nina viraka viwili nimenunua. Na pia ni watoto vile walivyosoma na bado mahitaji madogo madogo kuvaa. Yaani kwa kweli kwa jumla nina raha, ninamfurahi na namshukuru Mungu. Yaani mambo mengi hata sasa nitashinda hata nitaelezaje. Namshukuru Mungu kwa maombi kwa sababu nimepata. Hata nawaombea na wale waliotupa, Mungu aweze kuwabariki pia waweze kuwa nayo zaidi. Wawe na moyo wa kutoa kwa wengine tena.
I have to say, I'm not sure yet if I'm a big fan of the cow moo at the end. Because, I mean, it's such an amazing, powerful, impactful video, and to put a joke in the last frame, to me, honestly, like directorially, I'm like, I love everything about this piece until I get to the moo. It's like, really? You just blew my mind, and then you make a joke? But anyway, this is a great example. There's a couple things. A little bit later, we're going to talk about doing things yourself and working with a professional. And I'm not sure how many of you might have guessed this, but this was not shot on a flip camera. So we'll refer back to this video in a little bit. At least I'm going to take my professional opinion. My diagnosis is this was not shot on a flip camera, but maybe I could be incredibly wrong. But thinking back on what Debbie was talking about a moment ago, I mean, this video basically chapters straight into what Debbie was talking about. This is a single person story. You do have ancillary characters, but it is told through one voice. You start with essentially a chapter on client need. You go into success, the intersection of the organization and the service that they're providing and the impact that it's having. And you end with the gratitude and a moo. So, I mean, this really, I mean, it's pretty much like the video is, well, I can't remember what was first, writing the slide or writing the video. All right, so yeah, we can stay here because we'll go to another video that talked about brand awareness. So, this mouse is slow. This is better.
How long was that video?
3 minutes, 12 seconds, including the screen at the end and a little black fade up. It's a little bit long. This is why 3 minutes is like this kind of wall. I mean, this is a lovely piece. It holds my attention, but if you're putting this out on Facebook, you're asking a lot. You're asking a lot of someone who's flitting about in links and posts and status updates. If that's on Twitter, I've had 8 tweets come through by the time I've watched the first chapter. So it's tough to balance, but the story on that is so strong. And the other thing to remember is when you're doing fundraising, like I feel this does run a little bit long, but the impact and power of it, like this is something that people who are going to identify with this organization are going to identify with the story and this person. This is something that the people that you want are going to forward. And the people who are going to make it to the second chapter, they're probably going to make it to the third. Now, is it perfect? No. Can you debate about it? Sure. But you can. The nice news is I bet you this video is used also on disc as a leave behind with a packet. You could show this to someone in a major donation request. You can use this to introduce people who might be volunteering for a day to the organization. This is 3 minutes and 12 seconds. I think it defines the whole place pretty well in one story. I'm sure there's other things they do, but you get a pretty good sense. So,
Michael, can you comment at all about the fact that this requires reading, literacy, and English literacy in order to get something out of it? Is that a trade-off, or is that not a problem because of the intended audience?
Well, boy. Okay. let's see, I've done videos for Schools for Deaf. I've done videos with subjects in other languages. This is the approach that I prefer. Sure, you have to look at your message. You know what it is? Go back to that demographic data from your marketing strategy. Who is your audience? Are they readers? How are they finding you? They have to be reading Twitter or reading Facebook probably to find your social media site. They have to be reading a blog. So is literacy going to be a huge wall? You have to look at your organization, who your audience is. If you're trying to reach people that don't have internet connections in the first place, who might be having, access to education, issues like that, you probably might be communicating in other ways. Video is not any kind of panacea in terms of communications. It's just one tool. So I would think that if the people I'm trying to reach, even if maybe many of the people I serve are not literate, I would think that many of the people that I need to reach with this video to raise my friends and funds probably are. So and then one other thing that we'll get to in a bit is captions actually are really important, not just for access for people with hearing impairments, but it's also hugely important for search engine optimization. So, because if you do captions on YouTube, it's fully searchable, every word of it. Yes?
It also struck me that she was saying a lot more than what they put in the translation, in the caption. They were able to craft very carefully what words went on the screen that I take away from it, which is way different than her telling her story in her own language. I
have to tell you, having done videos in a lot of different languages, that could actually have a lot to do with the language itself. Mm-hmm. There's some languages that are much, much faster. First of all, reading is always faster than speaking and writing. So you have that going on. Secondly, Spanish is very fast. And then I did one in Hungarian. That was insane. Never make a video in Hungarian unless you're a native speaker. It's just and I'm not. So it's okay. It happens. And when we're making videos, one thing I'll tell you is, as someone who has a lot of experience as a documentarian, I think it's incredibly important to make sure that if you're working with foreign languages, that you get a native speaker to translate. Because I think it is it's downright dishonest as a filmmaker to craft words. Sometimes, yes, you have to alter because there may not be an exact word-for-word translation, but you want to be very faithful to your subjects. I think it's something that's just it's a responsibility as a communicator. So let me move on to this, which is we're using this as a brand awareness example. Brand awareness is so many things. I mean, in a lot of ways, the World Vision piece could be considered brand awareness. But in terms of a nonprofit, let's go to the video first so we can think about its context. But again, there'll be quality things for us to look at on this one too. But this is from Oxfam, and here we go. We'll start by watching.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm a high school senior. I used to play cornerback for my football team, but this summer I didn't go to football camp. In August, I went to Darfur. I can still smell the smoke in the camps, taste the food, and hear the blasts of gunfire that erupted around me, one nearby. Some of my friends might think I'm crazy for going, but it was the most important month of my life. On July 21st, I flew into Khartoum, Sudan's capital. It's my first day as Oxfam America's youth ambassador. I hope that once I get to Darfur, I can find a way to help. 4 million people there rely on humanitarian aid for things that I used to take for granted, like water. Around a third of the people in Darfur had to leave their homes because of violence. I met my driver and translator, Ahmed, and Oxfam's program coordinator, Saleh. We couldn't travel to Darfur until my paperwork was in order. It worked out fine because the malaria medicine made me tired and panicky, and the lentil soup and shish kebab that I ate played a number on my stomach. All I wanted was some sleep.
Hi, it is the 24th of July at 9:08 p.m. Sudanese time. Today was pretty cool. This morning I woke up at about 7 o'clock, which was 13 hours later than 6 o'clock, which is about when I went to sleep. The only thing I was missing was some food, but luckily I have a pretty big storage of Cliff Bar, so I was all set. After that, I went to the Oxfam America office this morning. Ahmed, our driver, came and picked me up. We had to take a longer route to get to the office today.
I'm going to pause. This is a 5-minute video, and are you guys okay if we we can talk about it if you have to watch more. It's available online. I think there's a link to it on the document. Here's a couple things that are going on here that I think are important. Again, in a little bit we'll talk DIY, but one thing we can watch another moment. One thing that's happening here is you've given a young man a volunteer flip camera or something akin to that, but he's not the editor, is going to be my guess. There's motion graphic stuff happening here that, I'm just guessing a guy getting ready to go off to college didn't do motion graphics like this on his own, though I've known 12-year-olds who can. The other thing that's happening is you can hear the non-video journal voiceover that he's doing. It sounds a little more red. I think it's because it is. I think what's happening is that he was sent to Africa with this flip camera. I think they're combining in some professionally shot photographs, some professional motion graphics, some professional editing, and they have a professional producer who has written a voiceover, probably along with him, not putting words in his mouth, but he's reading that after the fact. So this is a really nice example, in my opinion, of meeting in the middle, of having either on someone on your staff who's a professional video person, but being able to blend that DIY acquisition with some know-how to result in a piece like this. But here we are getting into it, the daily life of this volunteer, and in terms of it's a one-person story, but we're really learning about the on-the-ground action of this organization and about Ahmed, the driver. But, so we can stay here because I'll just go to the next video, which is another one we won't watch the whole thing on because it's a little long. But this is a community advocacy piece. As you can see, it's the Minnesota Second Chance Coalition. And I guess we could watch the whole thing. Let's watch it. It's 2:42. It feels, well, we'll let you decide.
I, at an early age, started struggling with chemical dependency. Started messing with methamphetamine because I was getting felony possession charges, and started, dealing to support my own habit. I have about 7 years total incarceration time, and it's all been around, chemical abuse, My last release date from prison was January 2005. The hardest part of doing time is getting out. It isn't going in and doing it.
Minnesota has the 4th highest rate in the nation of people on probation.
I ain't going to say it's been a bed of roses since then, but I've continued to move and progress in the right directions.
Consistently, people involved in the justice system have been the most demonized and the least supported.
When it, comes time to start establishing a, somewhat normal life again, it's the whole issue of who wants to rent to somebody, to a felon,
And he has worked hard to turn around his life, but is still unable to find employment, has trouble finding houses. And the reality is we're not just punishing the individual, we're punishing his kids. We're making it harder for his family to thrive. 4 years ago now, a group of nonprofit leaders came together and we found the Second Chance Coalition.
Our criminal justice system was designed to not make people perpetually pay for their crime.
In 2009, we were the first state to pass a law called Ban the Box.
And what that does is it requires that all public employers throughout the state take the question about criminal records off of their employment application.
And they can't just automatically rule you out because you check the box that says yes,
Another law that we had passed was a safe hiring bill. Sometimes employers are worried about the liability they might have when they hire somebody with a criminal record, and the safe hiring bill limits that liability for employers.
It's a whole host of organizations that represent a very broad constituency. And in my world, a broad constituency demands attention and respect.
The work that we do has a direct impact on public safety, keeping people away from crime, keeping people employed, keeping ex-offenders in stable housing, and providing the real support services that they need.
I finally seen a group of people that were actually doing something to try to change some stuff to, make it a little easier for people.
So let's try this. I can talk over this for a second.
System,
this video is 2:42. This is shorter than World Vision. Oh, it's got credits. So it's actually 2:22. I got bored prior to credits. I did. Sorry. It's a lot of credits. Couple things that are going on here in terms of things to pay attention about. They start off great with this advocacy story with this gentleman, and like we talked about with that single point of entry, he's fascinating. Professionally shot. That's a nice headshot there. And then nice B-roll, but they overused the same shot. And then we start getting to this woman, who, by the way, oddly is on the same side of the screen. That kind of bugs me. It's just, she's not wearing any logos. You can flip that in post, by the way, just, But as soon as we get to her, as soon as we get to like talking about exactly what we did, you start bouncing out. The story's done. It's facts. And bouncing out of a story space, if you're going to do a story video instead of an informational video, do a story video. You know? This footage, this guy and his family to me is always better. And actually tells this is the result of that advocacy work. I don't care about the state senator. Sorry. I know she's really important. But in the way they're lacing this together, stay with him. So, anyway, just something to think about. And it's also really interesting in terms of how this feels painfully longer than 312. Yes? Oh, really? Oh, yeah, I think probably during the picnic scene you might have seen a Coca-Cola label. Oh, that's probably generic. Let's see what happens. You know what?
Yeah, it's hidden.
Yeah,
it's hidden enough. I mean, to us, it obviously stands out as a Coke can, but as long as it's not there, the name itself, that I think it's safe enough. But that's a good point.
Well, yeah, I wish that would be nice. I have a feeling that Coca-Cola might shy away from the Helping Former Offenders project. I don't know.
That's guns for Coke.
Could work. Fair use is awful and wonderful. I know there were a few people who said that they're also lawyers. They can probably pontificate better than I can on the dangers of depending on fair use. Yet it is there for a reason, and sometimes you can a little bit. This is not on broadcast television. First of all, in that specific example, you're right. You could make it up as a Coca-Cola label, but it's not identifiable enough. I don't know that Coke would be able to put a cease and desist on this video for that instance. If it were a full Coke can label in an internet placement in a video that's advocating for a person like this in this story, is Coca-Cola going to put out a cease and desist? Because is that going to be a good PR move for them? Now, I don't like to count on that stuff because I guarantee you, like, if anyone's wearing Mickey Mouse ears, I don't care if, I don't care if it's the cow video. Don't do it. Stay away from the mouse at all times. So, copyright law is as long as Walt Disney's been dead, and it always will be. So, anyway, it's a good question, but I don't think we need to get too worried about it. Yes.
I just want to mention this video, when the woman started talking about the guy, she was kind of in a whining, poor, pitiful story mode, where he was like, listen, this is the way it was. I'm being straight with you. And there's a big shift in emotional energy.
Yeah.
And so I really felt like that clip demonstrated why you should use first person.
Right.
Anybody else telling his story would either sound whining or judgmental or whatever.
But an invested advocate, though, an invested advocate who's impassioned, who's spent, lots of hours and lots of blood, sweat, and tears, and maybe a few arrests to get this legislation through, I want to hear from them. As long as they're not whining about the poor guy, as long as they're talking about their story, like, this is important to me.
Yeah.
I wanted to help, I forget his name, I want to help Jim because my uncle had, couldn't get a job after he got out of prison, and it's horrible. And this is why I spent, 80 hours a week doing this. So there's different approaches, and that's why that cast selection, that stuff that Deb was talking about, thinking about who's on camera and the empathy. I got to tell you, I'm a big detractor for board members in videos because it's oftentimes people on staff think they have to include their board members, otherwise the board members will be offended, and the board members show up because they feel that they have to be in the video because the staff asked them, and really you end up with these weird flat interviews that don't have all the passion that you want, unless you've got a really special board member. Like, you know what I mean? Think about your casting. Think about back to that touchstone piece. What's your message? Who are you talking to? That'll really guide you all the way through the process. And by the way, if you got someone who's bad, put them on the editing room floor. That's why we have the editing room. Yes.
And I guess I did not have a negative reaction to the advocate. Actually, I felt like what she contributed was valuable, and I think that an advocacy piece is not only storytelling, but it's informational, and so if you're, I think it's a little bit dumbing people down to sort of say that, we only want stories. If some of us want context, I agree that they could have given the protagonist, more space to tell the story, but story alone for this type of advocacy organization, they're clearly trying to educate people about the issue. And even that piece of information that they gave in there, which a lot of people don't know, they don't really think about the fact that, how you're punishing people, after they've already served their time, and that, this checkbox on application forms, if you're not in that world or you don't have experience with, someone who's served time, you wouldn't necessarily know that. So I think that's important. So I think it kind of walks the line of informational and
it does walk the line. I agree, and I think the point you made about maybe giving more space to the gentleman to tell his story and have it be more evenly paced, because it seems like, to me, it's not necessarily that the woman should have totally been on the cutting room floor, but that it should have been more evenly paced and distributed. Oops, I did it again. More evenly distributed throughout the video. And I think that if the person directing the gentleman would have asked questions like, what was your experience, when you went to apply for a job, and did you have to check the box? Was there a box? Now is there a box? And to have him give that information about the organization, but through his own experience, then I think that would have been very, very helpful. And I do think incorporating someone, an advocate as well, would have worked well for the video, but just kind of, like I said, intersecting it in a better way. It just seemed uneven to me.
I speak in hyperbole, so I'm not, and I'm being overly critical to make a point. I agree with you, but there are also, everything that Debbie says is absolutely right, and everything you're saying in terms of being able to get information in is really important. But I still think, for me, in this context, I still would like to get the information from the advocates in the form of their story. And I think that's the point that I'm making. It's back to that, not talking about, there's even a big difference about saying, working with John versus, his problem was. Those are entirely different statements, or the reason that I identified so strongly with John is that, it's just so unfair about this information, that information, this information, versus just spitting out the information without that context or that emotion. That's, again, remember the context that this video hopefully is on a blog page that you're going to put together that's going to have a whole article with a lot of facts, or on your website that's surrounded by other things they can get. So that context also, again, becomes important. But I really was exaggerating. Oh, boy.
Wow.
Yeah, all right. Go ahead, please.
Really quickly, I think it's just important to see that when you get too informational and you don't let people get really wrapped up in that story, oftentimes people say, oh, that's interesting, I'll look at that later, and they just push it off to the side. But if you let that story build up and you let the viewer get really wrapped up into it, even if there isn't enough information there, they'll say, that is really cool, I'm going to take the extra time to go and find that information, to look that website up, to do that, So it's I think it would be better to have that story be really, wrapping than to just shoot that information out bit by bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't it have to get through school first? Really? All right. Ivan, go ahead, please.
So an idea from Twitter, I'm not sure if this person is in the room. If so, I apologize for taking your comment. But what about having the sort of informational pieces in an overlay or caption underneath while the person is talking?
And we're going to get to that kind of informational piece. Again, we're trying to, this is the problem. We're oversimplifying in a way. It's a totally valid point. I do a lot of videos with graphical information. But again, it's still, to me, I try to tread lightly in terms of how much I want to get done in my 90 seconds to 180 seconds. How much am I trying to get someone engaged in the organization so they do read the facts? And I just want to be careful. So there's a balance point, please.
I was just going to say, it's interesting. I've been learning about Veeple. Do you guys know about Veeple, the interactive, clickable video technology? we haven't ventured into that world yet, but I've done research on it. I wrote a blog post about it. But what's interesting about Veeple is that you can add these clickable icons on your video, and then that will be a PDF, or that will give you a bullet list of information. So then they get into the whole other question, well, will that distract the viewer, and then it'll break the flow of the story, and there's all these questions involved in it. But the point is that, there is that technology that's out now that's interesting because, let's say the viewer is someone, that is a former inmate, and they want to click on a specific program, that will help him or her get a job. Click here to learn about this program or something. So not everyone will want that, but for that particular person, they can click on that and get information. So I just wanted to throw that out there as just this, evolving technology and ways to incorporate information.
And if you're a member of the YouTube for Nonprofits program, then you can put those links on your YouTube video too.
Well, yes, kind of. Debbie's done more research on Veeple and shown it to me, and it's weird, and it's cool and awesome and scary. The things that you can do in the YouTube for Nonprofits video, which you can also pay for as well, they're a little bit different because Veeple's kind of like the full overlay that gives you really incredibly discrete control, even deeper than what the Google overlays is doing, and because you can bring up PDFs in different ways without bouncing out of the video, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's same, not same. All right, we should move on just because...
Was there one more person that had a question? I just remember someone had their hand up.
No, it's all right.
It's all right?
Okay. I just, can keep us here all night and happily will, but let's at least get through the presentation part. Hey, this is advanced. All right, so we're going to look at... what's that? Yeah. We're going to look at someone local.
Okay, so we're switching into informational mode.
I apologize. Yes, if we had a slide up, which we do not need, it would show that we're moving from storytelling to informational videos. And this is informational. There's a slight element of story here because one of the things that the Mutter Museum is doing, if you see here on the right, they've done a lot. This is awesome. And by the way, they have overlays, clickable stuff. They have, you'll see pop-ups. This is like if you guys want to see what's possible in engaging people through a large amount of informational videos, take a look at this. Now, this is like a behind-the-scenes glimpse of an organization or staff. So this is, as you can see, guess what's on the curator's desk, and it'll do better to just watch it in the massive 105 runtime.
Hi, and welcome back to Guess What's on the Curator's Desk. Now last week I showed you this object, and today I'm going to tell you what it is. It's called a tooth key. It was used for hundreds of years to help dentists extract teeth. This hook here would wrap around the tooth, and the dentist would use this handle to twist and extract the tooth. So, a tooth key. Now, let's see what our next mystery object is. Now this mystery object is very unique. I bet you can guess that it's a wet specimen. But there's something very special about it. Can you guess what it is? Post your answers to our Facebook, Twitter, or in the comments section below. Until next week, I'm Anna Doty, encouraging you to think outside the jar.
For more exciting videos, be sure to log on to youtube.com/The Mutter Museum and be sure to click subscribe.
This is unbelievable. This is so, if you guys want to know, really well this is it. This is what we should be doing. Now.
No, but they want to know what was in the jar. That's what they're getting at.
Oh.
Click back. Now we got to watch.
Episode 4.
Yeah. Click on right at the end.
Hi, and welcome back to Guess What's on the Curator's Desk. Last week, I showed you this wet specimen. And today, I'm going to bring in our director, Robert Hicks, to show you what makes it so special.
Oh, take it out of the jar.
And here I am. Well, as Anna knows, preserving wet specimens can be a really challenging thing. We never know exactly what liquid is inside.
That's true.
And the discoloration of the liquid could reflect some strange 19th century chemical interacting with the modern fluid that we replenish. So one thing we have learned over time is that working in this environment, our taste buds are probably the most sensitive ways to determine what's actually in the jar. So we'll just do what we always do. We have this damaged wet specimen here of a human heart, so we give it the lick test first.
Don't try this at home, please.
That's good.
Okay, we're good. We're good. We're good. Thank you. So as you know, this isn't a real wet specimen. In fact, it's made entirely out of sugar. It was part of the cake for our 2011 Mutter Ball, which also celebrated Dr. Mutter's 200th birthday. So it's not a real wet specimen, but it's really tasty. Let me show you.
No. We'll never leave. As soon as we're done, we're just going to watch the entire Mutter Museum channel. Are you kidding?
This is a fantastic informational.
Yeah. This is social media video at its best. There is some story, by the way. If you didn't notice, you're getting to know, I believe it's Anna Doty. I think I remember her name, and I don't know her. And I should remember Mr. Hicks because he licked what I thought was a heart. Single camera. One thing, by the way, notice, I think this could be very much somewhat semi-professional DIY. My guess is it's on staff, someone with a decent camera, not a flip. But it could be because I don't see mics on them like wireless, which is interesting. There was that one little sudden pop where they zoomed out just a hair. Like, this isn't done by a professional. This is done by someone with some practice. And I mean, these videos, they start and then they stop. There's no edit. It's just, but there's a lot of work in how they're posting it. They're putting up these overlays that have live links. They've got their ad down here. They've made sure they've got the subscribe feature. They're doing a good. I mean, I've seen more customized channels in my day, but actually, if we go to the channel itself, I think it's super customized.
Yeah, I think actually
they're customized. Really great. Their channel is beautiful. Let's see, how many people are subscribing? I forgot to look. They've had 143,000 views. The channel itself, this page here, has been viewed over 10,000. 572 subscribers. Honestly, YouTube is not a huge. Usually you find YouTube through liking Facebook pages, following Twitter. You don't see a lot of heavy subscription channel pages. That's heavy. That's a lot. And that's just a site down the street. I mean, I don't know if people are following. Where are they from? I don't know. They probably have a lot of friends, too, if we looked somewhere else. Oh, and look, you can get to all their other social media.
But I just think it's really interesting to look at their choice in... so I could picture them sitting around in a meeting. Okay, how can we get people into our museum? How can we get people interested in all the cool, weird stuff that we have? And, how can we do it affordably? And, they came up with this great idea to provide information on what is in the museum, about the museum holdings, and to really pique people's interest. And to do it, pretty easily. So I just think it's really creative and really intelligent what they've done. So
yes. Well, I haven't. Here's 2:12. Here's a minute. Here's a minute 27. Minute 3. They're all short. Good. You can find out who did the channel for me. What's that? Who their target is?
Oh, absolutely, because people, they see that, oh my God, that's so weird, and what else do they have at the museum? And they have really wild stuff, and that's a really different, unique museum. It's so I would guess the general public and Philadelphia, people that live in Philly, and also tourists, because people that come to Philly, they of course go to the Philadelphia Museum of Art and other Constitution Center, but, some people might actually want to check out something a little bit off the beaten path, and that's what the Mutter Museum is.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, guys. We do a lot of work with museums. We always like to do more. One of the things that's going on big time with museums is the thing about the internet is you're no longer limited to your walls. And your collection is no longer only what you can put on display at that moment that you have room for in your exhibit space. You know, they've taken their curators and turned them into part of the collection. I mean, don't you want to get coffee with Anna Doty? It should be a riot. So, not to mention, though, you can see the tooth key and all this weird stuff. But museums aren't looking only to get people in the door, at least not the ones that I know. Yes, that's always a goal. But those people, you know, how'd you find out about the Mutter Museum? Maybe you did go when you were a tourist in Philadelphia, but now you're home and you're in Scandinavia and you're really wondering what the tooth key is. I don't know. But, I mean, you're still connected with this place down here, you know, in whatever neighborhood that is. Uh-oh, that's not good. It's another good idea there. But, I mean, you know, this is the thing to remember is that we've talked a lot about, like, I guess some traditional service nonprofits so far or, you know, community advocacy. What's interesting here is you're looking at something that's a completely different kind of organization. And they're doing this in a completely different way. And I'll lay you a bet, they're getting a completely new audience. People who've never been to the Mutter Museum and may never make it are probably watching on Monday and Thursday. Well, that's wow. I think that's sort of a channel issue. I think that my recommendation, I don't know about the program, I wouldn't put that on this channel. This channel is doing one thing, and it's doing it really well, and it's talking to one audience. But Facebook, Twitter, I think we had Flickr down below. We had all these Ustream. These are all the channels that what you're doing by attracting these new viewers and these new people who are interacting. This is why video on social media, it's not just about getting people to watch your video. I'll lay you a bet that no one in here is going to have the next video with 5 million hits. If you do, it's great, and you're lucky. But that's so rare. But, you know, here you're looking at people who've got, like we said, the whole channel with all these videos, 143,000 views, and that's really successful. That's awesome. So now if you're feeding these people into Mutter Museum channels and getting them engaged in other ways, now you can say, hey, we have these other programs. We have these other things happening. We have an event at the museum. We have a new exhibit going up. So that's the social aspect of this. It really is about getting them engaged in all of your channels. So, just for the sake of time, I'm going to move forward. So let's watch something else. All right. So here's something. It's in the PSA realm. It is a PSA. It's using a lot of statistics and some text. Might have a famous person or two in it, and they might have spent some money getting it produced. I'm not sure.
Odds of becoming an astronaut, 1 in 13,200,000. Odds of being struck by lightning, 1 in 576,000. Odds of dating a supermodel, 1 in 88,000. Odds of bowling a perfect game, 1 in 11,500. Odds of being trapped in an elevator, 1 in 24,528. Odds of catching a ball at a major league game, 1 in 563. Odds of an injury from shaving, 1 in 6,585. Odds of tripping while texting, 1 in 10. Odds of getting cancer in your lifetime, 1 in 2 men, 1 in 3 women.
It's up to us
to change the odds for our generation.
For the ones we love. For our future.
If you don't like the odds, stand up. Stand up to cancer.
Okay. So, you know, this is made for a multitude of channels, including broadcast, you know, but what's going on here that we wanted to point out is the use of text and statistics. I think this goes back to, someone from Twitter's point about using some graphics to include some educational points. All the graphics leading up to this, with the jokes and the silly and the famous people, when you get to those last 2 graphics about 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women, you're going home with those. So this is, you know, obviously this is very well crafted professional work, but it's brilliant to take these things that you're working on for things like broadcast channels and put them into an entire social media sphere and start to, again, you know, drive people. I don't know if this is the original posting of this with 7,500 views. It's probably not. It's probably been posted a lot of times. So, or repost it a lot of times, and sometimes people download it and blah blah blah. So this is not indicative of how many views it's probably had. But 39 people bothered to like it. That says something. So again, moving forward, we're going to watch but a moment of this. If we watch any at all, well, we'll watch a moment.
I just want to point out about the
how-to. No, it's fine. I'm trying to speed up, talking a little fast. I'll breathe. So we talked about YouTube's the second largest search engine. The number one keyword phrase that goes into that search engine is how to. All right? So this matters. Now this video from an organization called Miriam's Kitchen, which works to feed homeless people healthy foods, actual nutrition. They did a chef challenge entry teaching us how to make venison pot pie. Here's a chef talking about pot pie.
I'm John Murphy. I am the Assistant Director of Kitchen Operations at Miriam's Kitchen.
So I'm not going to watch 3 minutes of this guy when I can't hear him that well.
Plus, we don't really eat venison.
Yeah, I don't eat a lot of venison. You can watch it later. The link's on the website. What is important is that this is an organization that has a specific mission, but they've figured out an idea on how to do a how-to video that people search for. Now, have they done tons of these things? I don't believe they have. Should they? Yeah. They should put up a lot of recipes that they're feeding their clients, and they should have a chef leading through it and teaching us how to make those at home. That's now a channel, and that's something that might get searched. Again, I'm not going to look up how to make venison stew.
Venison something or other. Pot pie.
Pot pie? Is it in the description? Here it is. Important, by the way. It's in the description. That matters for those how-to searches. He's missing the how-to words.
How many people do searches for how to make venison pot pie?
But if it was for a nice omelet, you might get some hits.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the point there. Back to information. And that is nothing but a guy talking to a camera. It would have been nice to have a better microphone. Shooting in kitchens is hard for audio. I've done it. All right. Documenting a program. This is a local festival that happens every year. And this is one of the videos that we participate in producing that the executive director needed for a multitude of reasons. One is this is last year's festival. She's using this to promote this year's festival to give people an idea. The initial thing was also her grant funder, major grant funders, kind of said, we want a video. This is a very good impetus for getting a video. The nice news, though, is she can use this to help gain some traffic if she pushes it harder to get people to this festival. So this was originally more designed for the grants report.
It's really wonderful to see all these young people dancing. They're so talented, so we've really enjoyed it.
So then it goes on into lots of dancing. Which it is supposed to do. But the point here is that there was very small budget for a very specific purpose. Document, put together a short or as short as you can video. They actually had us extend it to get more information in for the grant report. That kind of summarizes an entire event. So it's just more information. But I do want to show one thing really fast that a friend of mine at the Constitution Center did that I really like, which is a little bit different take on the event video. They had an education week. This is very recent. He just posted this a few weeks ago. And there's a couple things. This is my friend Stephen Frank who did this. There's a few things that he does, and this one's only 1:23, and I think we should watch it.
Education is absolutely a right. It shouldn't be a privilege.
I think it's a basic, fundamental right. Education is a right that we all have as Americans.
I absolutely think education is a civil right. I think it's the most important civil right facing our nation.
Well, it depends. I mean, I can say the right, politically correct thing, or I can just say what I think.
No, it's a right. If our government's worth anything, we should stand for the proposition that every American citizen deserves a quality education, and it shouldn't depend on the zip code where they're born. Simple as that.
People have a lot of choices: public, private, charter, non-charter. but it has to be good and it has to be equal and it has to be accessible to all.
I don't know what would have become of me had I not had that foundation. I think everybody should have a quality education in this country.
Society has. I'm going to mute this for one reason. So here's something that's going on here. The reason I wanted to show this is it's not just. I mean, what do we got? We got a bunch of politicos and others standing around outside to shake hands with a bunch of people. So what kind of event is that to cover? You know, you're going to show that with some lovely editing and make it exciting? No. So we came up with a question related to the topic, put all this together. But the thing that he did that's awesome, and I might have, there it is. This, see this little thing down here that says annotations? He didn't insert that as video into the video. All of his lower thirds, that's what we call those, your identifying slates, all of these are done as annotations. Now, the reason that matters is if we ever get to distribution, it's next, good. The reason that matters is that means that all of these things are searchable within Google, within YouTube. So if I ever were to enter Governor Rendell plus Chris Matthews, this is going to come right up high on the video list because those words are going to occur inside these annotations together. So, or if I just want to see stuff with Governor Rendell, yeah, it can be in the description, but it's another place to reinforce that. So that's part of the thing about this video I think was done so well. So, please. Yes. Absolutely, and that's another, beyond captioning for searchability, I think it should be captioned because it should be captioned. But when I talked to Stefan about the video and was giving him compliments, all he could do, because he made it, was complain about the flip camera and the fact he didn't have an external microphone to eliminate the wind noise. And yes, when he did the audio mix, he could have backed the background music down. But I also recall when I played this on laptop speakers, this is something you guys should know. Don't get too obsessed with it. But unless you're planning on playing your online videos in a room with a nice booming sound system, it's going to sound different here than it does just on laptop speakers. It's going to flatten everything out. It's going to pull the bass out. It's going to change everything. Even the wind noise, believe it or not, is less because the bass disappears on tiny little laptop speakers. So play your video back. It's important once you upload. Here, let's go back to slides. I can talk about distribution. Steve, do you mind switching me to the what do you call this thing? PowerPoint. The other computer. When you're, I got to click through. There we go. So,
can I ask a question?
Please do.
Your flip mic, your flip cam. Sure. If you wanted to compensate and get some better sound, did you have like 2 flip cams and get having only one?
No, don't. I mean, Cisco bought Flip, and I haven't looked at them. The camera that's replacing the Flip to me is the Kodak ZI-8, and it's got some descendants already. It's another $100 flip cam that actually has an audio input. Okay. Oh my goodness, how hard was that to think of? It's a brilliant little thing, and it opens up the world. And the other thing, guys, is that flip cams are great for flip cam purposes. They really look surprisingly good. But, it's a crappy little thing. Unless you have a tripod or the steadiest person in the world who never drinks coffee, which is not me, it's going to bounce around. So, I think there's a lot of reason to look at like mid-level prosumer cameras. There's different things besides Flip and Kodak, but in that world, just don't bother spending $100 if it doesn't have a mic in. Yes.
You can actually also get an auxiliary digital recorder, standalone digital recorder without video, record simultaneously, and then overlay that.
That's what I was getting.
Yeah, and there are software plugins depending on what you're editing in, like something called Pluralize, which will automatically sync. It's a pain in the neck. I prefer to. You're absolutely correct. If you already own a Flip, you can get a standalone digital recorder and do much better that way. If you haven't bought your camera, though, get one, please, with an audio in to make your life better. The standalone's also professional mic inputs, which is a very nice thing to work with real microphones.
I recommend, by the way, going to a music store, professional audio source, Guitar Center, Sam actually sell professional recording quality, CD quality. you can do MP3s as well as PCM, CD quality recording.
Yeah.
And you're talking about 100 or less than
a couple $100. You can get like a Zoom or one of those kind of. There's a lot of toys, and there's a lot of some of the resources. So where is? Hey, Andrew, could I have a copy of my document? Everyone got one, but I forgot. So on here, in terms of distribution, so here we are at our SEO and distribution tips. Basically, starting off, Real SEO and OnlineVideo.net, which are the second and third link down here. These are great places to go and search for information. And look, there's new cameras like every week in terms of this flip level world. And these people are crazy enough to review them all the time. So hang with them. B&H in New York is my favorite place to buy camera toys. And they're actually starting to put online video out there with reviews. That's a great resource. I forgot to put that one in here. So there's some links to other information on our blog, some of our different blogs. There's the pwp.tumblr.com, they've given you the link to the whole post, but if you just go to pwpvideo.tumblr.com, you'll find Debbie's Video for Social Media blog that has all these links right there, so you don't have to retype. Much saner. I'm not going to go through this excellent article about SEO on your videos, but it's awesome. Not everything in here is gospel, but nothing in here is horribly wrong. And it should. And for those of you who are really into like doing code and stuff like that, there's things about surrounding HTML, video sitemap, stuff that you really should take a minute to think about. So distribution. I mean, I think I've talked enough about liking YouTube. Actually, I hate YouTube. Because it looks kind of crappy. I like Vimeo in terms of how things look. What I do with my stuff is I put it up on both. When I embed a video on my website that I want to look pretty, I use Vimeo. When I want to collect statistics and insight, I use YouTube. YouTube is the 800-pound gorilla. It's got really great analytics. It should be used for that. All the things with promoted videos. If you can do the Google nonprofits, you can access a lot of stuff for free. I've talked about annotations and captions. Pay attention to your tags. It's SEO on your videos. It's those tags are like your meta tags on your web pages. So put some thought into them. These other sites, the MetaCafe and Blip TV and Vidler, they're there. People like them. I'm satisfied with YouTube and Vimeo. Howcast matters a bit though, because back to that how-to being that main search in YouTube. This is another place that people will go to look for those how-to videos. So if you do them, make sure you put them up there as well. When it's time to get into your other channels, Facebook and Twitter, back to that insight power that YouTube has. Facebook's video delivery service is no different really than YouTube. There's no point in taking the 10 minutes, whatever, to re-upload. Just you put your YouTube link in there, and guess every time someone watches it, your statistics are still collected in one place. They're still on your Facebook page. They're still interacting with the post. It's just as shareable. It's not different at all. But collecting that data is really important. Same with Twitter. I mean, if I click now on share, look. That link looks, you're not on it. I'm sorry. I switched computers. It doesn't matter. Just stay here. YouTube has now graced us with shortened links for sharing. So it's no longer like youtube.com/5 million characters. It's already a Twitter-ready link. And that's a very nice thing to be aware of. You can also click share. Oh, here we are. I mean, why would I bother uploading to Facebook when I can click right here? Yes, sir.
And on the shortened link, one thing that's nice about that is that if you're using a client of some sort, like a Twitter client, a lot of times if you use that link, it'll play right within the client. Like if you're using TweetDeck, it'll play right within TweetDeck. So even though you probably could use a URL shortener to make that even shorter, it's nice to use that one because then it'll pop up. Like you won't have to get people to go to another page.
Nice.
Cool. Thank you. I learned something. This is awesome. Oh yeah. So.
Okay.
Oh, can we go back to PowerPoint for a second? Thank you.
Okay, so we're getting near the end here. This next slide, it's a lot of information. I'll try, to move through it quickly. Let's see. Okay, so finding your audience. After you've already posted the video that you worked so hard on, you posted on your YouTube channel, you posted the link on your Facebook, on Twitter. Now what? Is that the end of it? Are you done with distributing your video, or do you try to push forward and really get creative and see how far you can promote your video? Well, if you're looking to really try to push it far, here are some suggestions. One suggestion is establishing relationships with bloggers. So it takes some time, it takes some work, but let's say you are a Civil War museum and you're trying to promote a program or get funds for a specific program. You can do a blog search on Google Blogs for Civil War blogs. You can check out who's blogging about it, and then see which blog has the most followers, which blog has the most interactivity, people are posting the most comments. Then you could contact the blogger. You could comment on the comment thread and really become part of that community. Contact the blogger, let them know who you are, what you're doing, offer to be a guest blogger perhaps, or perhaps offer to interview him or her for your own blog. And, it's a long road, but eventually the end goal is to establish a relationship so that when you have a video or any other social media content for that matter that you want to promote, that the blogger will get the information out there to their whole community, which is just, the possibilities are endless with that one. So that's one way. Another way to really extend finding your audience is through Facebook fan pages. So you've already posted your video on your own Facebook page, but let's say you're an organization and there are other organizations out there that have the same cause as you, that have the same kind of community, or that might kind of attract other people that are your target audience. So you want to try to get that thinking cap on and think, okay, what other Facebook fan pages are out there that relate to my target market? You friend that page, and then a lot of times on the Facebook fan pages, once you friend them, you can post within that news feed. Not always, but a lot of times you can. So for example, if you are a community organization that has an annual event, and you have an event coming up, and you made a video last year, like the Raíces Latin Roots and Rhythm Festival, and you want to promote the upcoming event, you could go to the Philadelphia Tourism Facebook page, fan it, and if they permit you to post in their news feed, you could post the link to the video there, and there you have it. Anyone that goes on that Facebook page will see the post, and you'll be promoting, hopefully attracting more visitors to your festival in that way. So another way to broaden your reach is LinkedIn. If you're just basically have the basic LinkedIn account, you can sign up for up to 50 groups. So you guys familiar with groups on LinkedIn? Yep. Yes, no? Okay. Well, we got some no's, so I'll give a quick summary. So there are basically these groups, these people that kind of start groups on LinkedIn that are based around a certain topic. Whether it's nonprofits, there's lots of nonprofit groups out there. There's lots of social media groups out there. But let's say you're an organization and you're an environmental organization and you're trying to promote some advocacy. So you can look for groups that are related to environmental advocacy. Locally, regionally, nationally, however far you want to reach your market. And you join those groups. And then once you join those groups and are members to those groups, then you can post your video either on the discussion tab within that group or under the promotions tab. I would advise the discussions tab because that is basically what people see most often when people get updates from their groups. Your post would come through. Unless, for example, you are posting a real hardcore sales pitch. That doesn't go over so well in the social media world. Again, going back to the whole providing valuable content, helping people with information, creating conversation, not just like buy this, do this, do that, sign up for this. If you have something like that, you might want to just go right over to the promoted tabs and post your video there. So that's another outlet. Of course, there's status. So in your LinkedIn newsfeed, you can definitely post a link to your status there, and everyone in your network will see. And then there's also, you can post your video on your profile page. So anytime someone clicks on your profile through LinkedIn, the video will live there permanently, and you can do that by downloading the SlideShare app. And if you do a search for it, they'll tell you how to do it. I did it months ago, and I don't remember, but I know you can do it. That I promise. And finally, not totally finally, but finally for things we'll review tonight is Ning Networks. So everyone here know about Ning? Okay, I heard one no or something. But Ning Networks is a social platform so people can sign on, create their own social network around an issue. A lot of times it's advocacy. It's less about people. It's less about an organization. It's more about a topic. So it's people that are interested in a cause. So if you're looking, whatever your cause is, you can find these groups on Ning that kind of gather and support each other about their cause, that are from all different organizations and volunteers and just people that are interested and want to stay on top of things. You find those networks, you join them, and you post your content. So in addition to the traditional social media, your own Facebook page, your own YouTube channel, your own Twitter, if you can kind of keep moving things forward in these other ways, then you'll really get the most bang for your buck in whatever. You spend so much time creating your content, whether it's video or blog or whatever it is. So you want to just try to, figure out best ways to distribute it.
All right. Seth, am I good for my next 8 minutes? Do you think? Sure. All right. I don't want to abuse anyone of their time, so but I am going to fly through this because I've got a few things. So I refer to this a lot. It's the do it yourself or don't. And this and the combination, sort of broken this up into beginners and intermediates and expert. And the thing that before you even start pondering this question, I just the hours involved in the video, like the Mutter Museum thing was nice. It was camera on, camera off. Like this is a good example of something you do as a beginner. But even still, there's all that wrapper information. There's all that upload. There's all that work of finding your audience online through these other networks. So before you start just diving in, take a moment to assess your resources and how much time you can invest in the production and distribution of your video. And that's a good initial guide as far as doing it yourself versus working with a professional or teaming up for a little bit of both. So with the beginner aspect of it, I think one of the nice things about this new world of social media video is that we've seen a lot of different types of quality tonight. And the thing that's so cool is there's a lot of tolerance for all kinds of different quality. The thing that has to always be good is that message. We can see past a little bit of a shaky camera, though it's not my favorite. We can see past a few things. We can't necessarily hear past bad audio, but you can do things like video blogs and video diaries and lots of stuff with webcams and flip cams, and that's really no-brainer. There's no training, there's no practice, or at least not much. So intermediate, some kinds of things that you can do. Testimonials. We saw that National Constitution Center video, and we talked about some of the technical issues of that. That's the question. Is my audience, is my message, is my event, can it tolerate being a complete beginner? Should I get a little training, attend a couple classes? I know PhillyCam, I believe, you guys offer some training and classes. So you can get yourself up to an intermediate level by taking advantage of some local nonprofits like PhillyCam that are offering this kind of training so that when you go out, you know what a tripod is and that you should always use it, that kind of thing. And you can start doing videos like Stefan at the NCC is doing. But at the same time, if you want to get really deep, you have to decide, shooting dance, that's hard. Maybe you do want to reach out to someone and come up with some kind of arrangement like that. Speakers, I think, with a little bit of training, know that you get your audio down. Like if you guys are having say someone from the Chancellor of MIT, you might want to videotape that. And if you don't have the ability to have Steve and a built-in camera system, you might need to arrange for something. So that's the point where you want to make sure you know what you're doing, because you get one shot and then it's gone. And that's really valuable content that you want to capture. And then advanced. Now, back to the no hard and fast rules here. I think there's a big difference between a formal interview and a lot of the informal interviews that we've been looking at. So if we think all the way back to the beginning of the night and that World Vision and the video that ends with a moo, with the cow, it looked like when we saw the sit down with the woman that there was no lighting whatsoever, that there was, really nothing happening there beyond a camera sitting down and looking at her. I looked at it, and I'm pretty sure there's some light. Because there's light coming from the side where there's a wall where there can't be light unless you put it there. Yeah. So, there's things that are going on. And also, that was shot, I think that was shot on a DSLR, like a 35mm camera with a cool toy called a Lens Baby, which is this thing that bends and lets you, place weird focus. I mean, this video is awesome. So if you want to look like that, I hope you've been a photographer for a while, because then let me know and I'll hire you, because I can't shoot like that video. I hire a DP for that. The reason I put fundraising videos up here, we've talked about a lot of things that you can do in video to raise funds and that you should be doing. But at the same time, if at the end of the day you're going to put this up at your, I've referred to this before, your annual gala with all your bigwigs, and however much it is, 500, 1,000, I don't know, however much a plate you can get. If you've got Obama coming, maybe it's more. So I don't want to see, I would shudder to, scares me to think of flip video on a 10 by 12 screen. So, but at the same time, one of the things that we've been doing with people is taking that gala video production that's going for that big night, and then working people to use some of this original footage and cut a lot more videos that run a lot shorter time to feed a social media channel for a long time. And you can think about your budget for video. Don't look at each video in that budget. It'll run away from you by the time you hit 6 months into the fiscal year. Think about it for a year. What am I going to spend in hours, or what am I going to spend in dollars? How do I want to divide this up? What are my resources? And then what do I have to have? Do I have to have a gala video, or do I have to feed a YouTube channel? What's going to be most important to me for my audience? And then you can start deciding, I could afford to do a video actually every month. I don't know if you guys have the time to do one every Monday and Thursday like Mutter Museum. I don't. I've got all the toys. So just something to think about. And then PSAs, we looked at that Stand Up to Cancer. That's a project. That's months of prep and marketing and thinking and planning and lots of scripts on the floor and lots of shots on the floor. Again, I can't do that really with a flip. So, basically, to sum that up, quality you need or want that you expect from yourself for the message and audience, thinking of those resources you have, including people. I think interns are awesome, but in terms of how much you're going to train interns to do this stuff long term, just remember that they generally leave within 6 months. So make sure that you're training the next batch. Sorry, intern.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Who's not listening?
But just make sure that you're training your. No, listen. Before you leave, show the next person who started. Maybe stagger the interns at your operation so that you've got a few weeks to show the next person who's starting all the things that you've done. Make sure someone's got that YouTube channel password. Yeah. It'd be terrible if that leaves, you know what I mean? Oh, I can't post anything to that same channel because I don't have the password. And she's now in Darfur with Oxfam. So the last thing about combining forces, something else that I've been looking at doing a lot lately is, I've talked about it, is, okay, so we can arm people going to Africa with flip cameras, but we don't have the resources and time to cut it. That's fine. Sending a full crew to Africa is really expensive, especially if you want to go for a month. But sending the volunteer with a couple of cameras, or a bunch of volunteers with a bunch of cameras, $100 a piece, send 5. But bring that footage back and then work with a professional to put it together and make sure it's impactful. One thing that I do request, if you're thinking about that as an option, which is great, engage the professional before you send the cameras. Because if you come back with 5 cameras completely loaded with 20 hours of video apiece, it's 100 hours of video. And guess how long it takes to watch 100 hours of video? It's a bad situation. So you just need a little bit of guidance so that whoever it is that you're arming with those cameras knows when they want to pull it out, what they want to do their video diaries about, how much to shoot. It's great to arm people with it. If they forget to ever shoot, you're not in any better situation than if they do come back with 100 hours. It's a little bit of planning ahead. And if we have any time, questions, discussion?
That's what I'd like to do.
Please.
We'll continue the discussion, but I know some people need to leave. It's 8:30 right now. So you'll have a graceful ability to exit without being embarrassed in just a moment. A couple of quick things I wanted to say. First of all, take some food if there's any food left, especially popcorn and other stuff that's left over there. Sean Towie and Kate Van Gradis, I can't read your email addresses. If you could just clarify that. We're looking for ideas for next month on August 2nd. If you have any ideas, please let myself or Ivan know, or come to our planning meeting next Monday. And for those who are interested, after the event, some of us will go out for a drink and a bite, probably at Tuna Nog over by 16th and Arch. And you're invited and welcome to join us for that. So what I want to do at this point is give an intermediate thank you to Michael and Debbie for the tremendously well. And so here's the time for a graceful exit if you want, but we want to continue the conversation. So we can continue. We don't have a deadline, but we'll probably wrap up by 9 o'clock if
I will eventually need a drink and a bite. Mostly a drink.
My question, maybe this is where I got here, but my question has to do with helping a coalition of organizations that are working on a project to come up with that focusing thing that has to happen before you send 5 people out with their cameras. What do you guys do as professionals when you sit down with your people, get them together and get them on a message? Something that sends them. Do you guys
You answered the question with your question in some ways, which is all right. So I know there's a lot of noise with some people leaving. So the question essentially was, if you've got a coalition of people and you're trying to get them together to talk about one thing, how is it humanly possible to get a diverse group of people onto one message? Do we have tools? There are tools that you can use, like mind mapping, just traditional creative thought processes, brainstorming meetings. Hopefully, if you're building a coalition, I mean, honestly, we help a lot of our clients do some interim marketing strategy discussions, but hopefully you've at least had the inkling of that with whatever it is that's causing the coalition to get together. You have that message to focus on. So then it's a matter of bringing everyone together and really honing that message. So when we work with people, if I get into a room where people aren't on the same page, I let people know that we're not going to be able to get things done with it because there's always a budget issue. This is a great thing with video in terms of getting people onto one page, is explain how much it costs, be that in time or in dollars. And it's amazing how quickly people might come together and realize the value of having one central theme. Seriously, it's an amazingly powerful way to think about it, because working professionally, it's a real expensive hobby. It's not easy, and. No, I'll help with you. Oh yeah, I have a document. Email me. I have a document called Beginning Questions for Planning a Video that I use all the time. I will share it with anyone who wants it. It's just sort of a quick guide. So anyone can email me for that.
That's really well in helping to get you tap on as to what message you want to convey, what vision you have in mind, and really helps get you into that mindset. So definitely.
And we don't walk away. We just make sure that people are saying, like, I can't start on 8 messages.
Yes.
I can't. And if you're not going to bring in someone, if you are going to set up flip cameras, like, just don't put them out. Don't spend the $500 on 5 flip cameras. You don't know what's coming next.
Yeah, and if you were to look to hire a professional just to help with the editing and maybe consulting, I mean, we would be happy, or any professional perhaps would be happy to help, write tips for the shooters, like, to use a tripod, to hold a shot for 10 seconds, to not just forget to turn off record when you're walking around so that you end up with 20 hours of, like, motion sickness, So there's tips that we have from experience that we can just easily relay to the people that will be using cameras, and that will help, with a lot of problem solving and prevention down the line.
And then it just...
and creating videos is great. Who do you use, or how do you work with the design of a website to weave the video into the website?
Well, sure. The question was, creating a video is one thing, but how do you work to weave it into your website? So I'm kind of, this is on my beginning questions for planning a video. One of the things that I ask for is, like, if your organization has, you work with a good designer for your branding, you probably have style sheets, hopefully have style sheets. If you don't have style sheets, think about having one. And if you're not familiar with them, what a style sheet usually is it'll have your logo, it'll have Pantone colors, it'll have preferred font information, might have point size, and like that's a really good launching point, just so that I know if I'm going to be building things that, in terms of graphics and animation, that it's going to fit, so that when you embed that video, it works in that page. But collaboration is vital to making the video itself, but I don't like to make them in a vacuum because I get fearful that maybe they won't get used if it doesn't work on a site. So make sure that if this is something that the page or program it's going to live on, for those meetings, bring your web person in, bring your designer in, include them in that conversation. I know that I don't like to be ostracized on the other half as a creative person. So it's important to include people as early as you can so those choices are made well. And informationally, if you're designing a new page, you can show me, like, this is where I want it to fit. We can talk about, would we want to play with overlays? Where would they go? What are they going to do? Anything that you can plan before you roll a frame of footage is going to help you tremendously in saving how much work you're going to do in editing and later, and reshooting footage you didn't know you needed in the first place.
Okay, well, how about the case where you already have a website and you're repurposing existing videos? How do you, or maybe you don't provide those services, to work with an organization to work with them to best, effectively, and efficiently put the video on their website?
Well, if you're repurposing other people's videos, what you're looking for there is a player answer. So then the questions start to become, well, where are the videos you're repurposing? Like, I'm assuming you're talking about other people's online videos, not videos that you're capturing and then putting to web. Which is it? Well, if you're capturing it and putting it to the web, you've got so much control. It's not silly. You should make sure that you have the permission to use it.
Maybe I'm not asking a pointed question. Okay.
No, I'm trying to figure out.
What is a reasonably good design for embedding video on a web page? In other words, is one enough? Is 4 too many within the visible area of the web page?
I would use any YouTube channel page as a good guide in some ways. That's a really nicely designed thing. You have one central window, and you have about 3 or 4 thumbnails that are, I don't know the exact pixel sizes of those, but it'll give you a good guideline. Or if you click on like something underneath that, if you want to see like how many videos fit on a page, it's already been done. Look at the 800-pound gorilla, see how they did it. It'll give you some guidance.
That doesn't mean it's good.
Well, I don't know what you. There's no answer. You have to. That's a question in terms of design principle. That's going to be between, staying coherent with the look of your existing website, leveraging the technology you want to use, the player you want to use, the number of videos you want to use. So unfortunately, without sitting down for like 10, 15 minutes, it's an unanswerable question for me because of the level of detail that I need. I'm happy to talk to you about it after. Absolutely happy. Scott?
I just saw a webpage. There's a couple of guys in the video production company, and they, like, normally I would think they want to keep it relatively limited. They have a page, there's like 16 of them on the page. You just click it and it comes up with maybe a separate window, or you can click through a little bit and then you can watch the video as it is. But I had no problem with seeing the fact that they had like 16 on each page after page. They were demonstrating how many they had done, but...
See, I mean, that's the thing, is you're looking probably at a video company demo page. So for them, it's actually about how many videos can I show off, without someone having to scroll. Versus if it's informational and you're trying to guide the eye to specific ones, it's going to be about potentially larger, what's the text around it, what's the surrounding HTML doing. So there's a lot of, it's all about purpose of the page. If you're just aggregating a ton of videos, then put up a ton of videos. That would be my answer. Anyone else in terms of, I'm curious if anyone else has any experiences from using videos online that were either successful or not so successful. Oh, I didn't show your video. I want to show your video. Can I show one more video? I feel terrible. I told Kristen to show her video. This is actually, I wanted to show this when I was talking about PSAs, because what Kristen's done is, this is the example that breaks the rule. Is Kristen used a lot of time and talent, and also talent of friends who did original music composition, and she created what I think is an awesome online PSA for her organization, which we'll play, which is... I love that. I'm so sorry I didn't show it before some of the people left. I apologize. I mean, how long did you spend doing all the claymation? 3 hours? And how long did you spend with your friend doing the composition?
Finished it in that night. So he didn't spend so much time on it.
So, I mean, kudos. And I'm just curious, how has it been in terms of success?
Well, a lot of people like it. The friends of people who helped make it have looked at it, but I think it needs to work on my distribution, and it hasn't garnered too many donations so far. But with what I've learned today, I can work it out fine.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, and I can also, we should talk about getting a higher resolution version of it up for you. We can talk about that too. So, because it's so awesome. Yes.
Just because a lot of people in the nonprofit world and the funding sources are older people that haven't learned how to Twitter and text and stuff, it might be fun to have that exact video, but on a how-to. And it could have a slide before it starts, just like how to text one. And then it shows you the cute video, and then it gives you another PowerPoint slide or something that repeats how to do it.
I think that could work, because I don't think a lot of people understand text to give yet. You're right. But I'm still blown away that you did this in, essentially under a day.
It is amazing. Thank you.
How long did you plan it? How long did you, you had to know what you were going to animate. That's how claymation works.
We try to promote the idea of giving what I sell, which is kind of new, and a lot of people aren't really keen on that. But showing how much you can give with a nominal fee, like a drink or something like that, and saying that could be 10 pairs of shoes, that could be this, and then just converting that to a visual format that people can understand and resonate with them.
I love it. Yeah, that's great. And it's so cute. I mean, how can you not want to share it? So So hopefully next time I talk to you, you can tell me about how awesome it is when you start getting it blogged about. And I think you could get someone who's into anime. By the way, like the thing that Debbie's done with the bloggers that's really cool is like you could find people who blog about animating. And you could be, I have no animation experience. Check out what I did. You could find people sharing your video because they geek out on claymation. You could find people who like Wallace and Gromit from England, which is one of my favorite claymation things, you know? And they might geek out on this just because it's claymation. You don't actually have to look only for people who are into your cause. Sometimes you're actually looking for things that are just, you know, tangential.
I just have to say, I think you could certainly increase views that way, but you definitely don't want to neglect where you would find your actual target audience, people that would actually give money to donate to.
So, no, I'm not.
There's a difference with exactly. It's not. There's a difference in like the approach of viral video, getting as many views as you want, and then raising X amount of money. And so you just want to make sure, I think, that you don't spend too much time trying to get as many views as you want. When you might get better results focusing somewhere else.
I think I've heard that a viral video doesn't necessarily lead to more whatever it is you're trying to achieve.
I mean, it depends on the. It varies. There are again, look at how many videos are actually getting viral to the level that they're getting covered on the morning news, and if that's your like marketing strategy, is I'm going to create a viral video.
But it becomes so hard. That statistic becomes a marketing. Could become a marketing.
Look, if Kristen's video managed to go viral. All right, for whatever people geek out and think it's the greatest thing ever, and it's got 5 million views, and someone, even if it gets 1 million views or 150, I tell you what, if you get 100,000 views and you're not putting that in your grant application, it's silly, like that's huge. You have to decide what's outreach, what's going to prove that you're reaching new audiences. What are your goals? Is it view related, or is it going to be how many people are actually giving? Sometimes what can happen with the video is you actually, there's a lot of times you have to prove that a video can have efficacy so that other people that are on your staff actually think, understand that social media is not, like Debbie was saying, that it's here to stay. So sometimes it's like you can set a very reasonable goal that if we can get, we're not promoting this Text to Give campaign, we'll promote it in a month, but let's take a month and just use some social media channels just for video. And, A/B testing on social media is really important. So it's something you can do. Like, how many Text to Give responses am I going to get for how much effort? Now, sometimes you'll be disappointed, but depending on how much effort you put in at distribution, you might find yourself surprised. It's a little bit of luck combined with good thinking and stuff like that. There's no reason not to work that way.
This gentleman had a question.
The viral video issue of not being necessarily translating into increased revenue or increased, basically hitting your target, whatever your goal is. The Mutter Museum video, I was thinking about that, and we saw how popular it was, and everybody wanted to just sit here and keep watching and watching, and I'm thinking every minute spent here is 1 minute less that people are actually at the museum, which I think is a primary goal. Do you know if there's any data that showed how the popularity of that video translated into what their target was?
I think the Mutter Museum would have the answers to that. They would have, evidence on the ROI or whatever their objective.
Video can be as much a goal as attending the museum.
Yeah, it's so many goals are engaged.
We don't know exactly what their goals were. I imagine it was probably both brand awareness. Just awareness that they exist in the first place, so that next time someone's in Philly, oh yeah, remember that weird museum? Or also getting people in the door. I'm sure it's probably both.
But it's also sponsored by the College of Physicians.
Yes.
And therefore, these are, people in medical training trying to recruit new people into the health fields. You never know what, that's a hook that they're drawing people into for many reasons. And one of the questions in the back was, are they hooking it to a health promotion link or something? And the College of Physicians may be wanting this hook to turn people toward science for their career or to turn people toward health issues. So we don't know. And I think that when you have a hook that you've grabbed people with, you have to be a good steward of it. And you have to know that it's going to please the purpose or the mission statement. And that's why I'm back to that first primary questions sheet.
Yeah.
You know, if we don't know what the primary question is, we can get way, way creative and off track.
Well, but sometimes getting off track is good. One of the things to think about is that, back to that marketing thing, you know, your marketing strategy is not always the same as your overall strategic plan. So in other words, the Mutter Museum, their mission, I could look up their mission statement, I'm sure, but their mission may be to educate the public about freaky things in jars. But their marketing goals might not be solely to get people in the door. It might be that they are this weird, invisible museum that has this odd niche audience, and they want people that like things in jars to know they exist, and it could be that they want them to know that globally. A lot of times when we talk about, so we talked about storytelling a lot. The thing about informational videos, it's so powerful, is that if your goal is awareness or interactivity, social media as a whole, the goal isn't always like, we're going to do all of this work and it's going to translate in immediately. It's not like, okay, video out, dollars in. It's very rare to be able to track that. I mean, text to give is one of the few examples I can think of if you're doing that through video where you can directly correlate video to dollars. Most of the time it's about engendering feelings, loyalty, interaction. So now I'm the Mutter Museum, I'm stuck in Philadelphia, but through the magic of the World Wide Web and Monday and Thursday video releases, I might have people who feel engaged to my brick and mortar institution and my staff all over the globe. How does that translate into dollars? Maybe as a marketing goal you don't care, because what it does, it means that it means that your mission of educating people about freaky stuff in jars is being met, and you may never see them in Philly in your doors, but your mission is still accomplished. So that's something to keep in mind when you're thinking about that marketing strategy of how it's not always exact links.
One of your slides on storytelling talked about the protagonist engendering empathy. What about when your audience is so diverse that one protagonist in one story would also be an antagonist in a different group? If you're trying to reach Robin Hood and the Sheriff of Nottingham, what kind of...
2 YouTube channels.
Are there guidelines on the subject? The type of person you would use for the story?
Wow. I think that there are, certain themes that go beyond any of the things that divide us as a species. I think that, as a whole, in the human condition and human instincts and what we respond to as a whole people, that there's enough there to draw people in for a general audience.
The only example I can think of is Mindy at TA Prison Society and the Minneapolis thing we watched.
Yeah.
Because I've created some video around former offender issues before. That's a tough issue. That is a divisive issue. But back to that guy and the point of entry on that story. Okay, so video I've created on dealing with former offenders. Subject choice, but also when and where you see that subject. So your setting informs a lot of things. So the subject of that advocacy video was in a park with his child. It was not in prison. I have never shot a frame of footage inside a prison wall. For, as a matter of fact, to be honest, again, directorially, the barbed wire shots wouldn't be in my video because it's not about the prison. It's about life after the prison.
I thought he was in a prison yard.
Exactly, and that's a little misleading. So sometimes it's about how you place a divisive story so that you make sure that, look, you're not going to get the Sheriff of Nottingham to, buddy up to Robin Hood. It's not going to happen. That's an issue. Tell me the issue. I'd be interested. But you might be able to tell a thing that softens the hatred. I don't know.
That shows more of the human components. Like, they touched on in that one video showing his children. So getting into him talking about fatherhood and how he wants to provide for his children. And that,
I love what you said about the setting, because I can envision the sheriff of Nottingham around a fire at night in the woods, or one of his guards telling the story in that context, in that setting. That would really be confusing to people in terms of which side.
But I wouldn't want to interview him while he's actively beating the suspect. That's all I'm saying. We're going to divide things. So, you know, it depends on your issue.
And making 2 videos is just a smart answer. Making a
If it's
video
that issue, you might need to.
to
I
attract
don't know.
funders is a totally different video than to build a community that's being served.
It often can be that and it often can be back to Seth's earlier question about literacy.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, if the audience, if you're doing a video, if your organization serves literacy causes, you're not going to want a caption video only, or solely caption video to serve that audience. It's not good. So anyway, a couple minutes left for discussion if we want it. Anyone else? Cool. Can I get a beer? Guys, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun for us.